cause this is war. We won't go out without a fight.
Intercepted, Alex Austin bringing it back. Touchdown, Beavers.
Ain't no one taking me out my zone. If you don't know what I'm coming for, if you ain't worthy, I take your throne. I put that on everything I love. Sweat and blood, but the best yet to come. Wanna stand up if you getting down. Put up your fist if you with it now. We them big hitters, so brace yourself. Just another notch up on the belt. Born for greatness, man. Born for greatness, man. Born for greatness, man.
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. Like, what is the It Factor?
The It Factory is back for season 2. Last season, we explored what the It Factory is, who has it, and how they got it. This season, we still seek to answer the same questions, but with a new cast of characters. We take the helmet off some of the new faces in the Conference of Champions, and some familiar faces as well. Players, coaches, and experts will explore what it is that sets them up for success on Saturdays. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to the It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to the It Factory presented by Zayo. I'm your host, Yogi Roth, and I'm extremely excited for today's episode for a few reasons. Number one, we're continuing the State of the Program series with Jonathan Smith. Yes, the head coach, the co-coach of the year last year in Pac-12 football, along with Kalen DeBoer, who, of course, was just a couple episodes ago on this podcast as well. Also, got to go on the road. This is literally one of our road trip series. So I punched up to Corvallis, Oregon, prior to their spring football showcase and got a tour of the brand new stadium, Research Stadium, almost completed. It's amazing. We had hard hats on, glasses, the vest, the whole 9 yards, but also got a true state of the program. Think about this program. Year one with Jonathan Smith, 10 losses. Last year, 10 wins. And I think they are truly a viable candidate to win the Pac-12 championship this fall. A chance to call their spring game the very next day. And this team is talented. They have competitive depth. Most importantly, they have belief. And that all started with Jonathan Smith. It's a fun episode. I think you'll enjoy it. And sadly, it's our last one of the season. So good for you. You can go back and listen to them all as you get ready for the season. But this one for all Beavs fans or fans of the Pac-12, they want to listen to Jonathan Smith, a true contender with his Oregon State Beavers. And if you love college football, just go on back. Listen to all of them all summer long. We'll probably do that because we'll be in the season before you know it. But in the meantime, enjoy Coach Smith. We've done a lot of podcasts. It's the final one of the season, so thanks for coming on, Coach. I've never done one with a hard hat, glasses, and the vest on. So this is Beaver Street, right?
It is Beaver Street. You got concessions being started right here. You can stand here, get a bite to eat, turn around, and be this close to the field, watch the game. It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And your office, is that right there?
Yep, I'm on the corner there. So I've been able to see this on the day-to-day go up. Super impressive how it is a large operation, how organized, and each day you can see progress getting made, and we're getting close to finish line.
This is amazing. When recruits come and parents come, what do they say?
Well, they're always intrigued by it, and it shows, again, the progress we've made, the commitment, not only to athletics, but the university as a whole, that it is to continue in the future, not just in football, of athletics. And I love the piece that it is built so all can use it 365. It's not just about Saturdays in the fall. We've got the brand new Student Health Medical Center getting built right up there, a brand new welcome center for all students that come through. So really proud of that part of the project.
Wow, you could literally hear it being built as we're walking here.
I've been able to hear through my office as well every day. And sometimes I'm on a Zoom call or phone call and you got the background noise. It's a good noise to have.
So I remember this from years ago, and you've probably been told this story. We would be at SC working like summer camps in the early 2000s. And Coach Carroll will tell this story of he would walk out sometimes to like a youth practice field, and he could tell before watching them what the energy was like because he could hear it. He'd hear the coaches, he'd hear the players. For you, when you think about year one here, what you heard on this field, on your practice field, to now what you hear coming off a historic season, what's the difference?
Well, it's dramatically different. And, in year one, it was, some heavy lifting, and it was new on everybody, players and coaches. But I just think over time, a belief system, a consistency, and buying into this idea of being a team player, accountability, and it takes some work. And so each year, I think we've built on it. Beaver Nation's been a part of that. I think about the home field advantage that was created, especially these last couple of years with this place getting packed, energy, noise, crowds into it. They've impacted the games.
It's fascinating when I think of that. So I heard you say about parents and recruits. You've got like former teammates on this staff. A lot of former teammates come back. What do they say when they look and see this stadium, see this new facility here?
They say it's how dramatic it's changed. You know, some of the guys I played with, this side wasn't even done at that time. And so some of my former teammates, this side was new, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, and then this one to come and dramatically change the place. There's some real pride for these guys to come back, you know, myself included. But then you got Trent Ray on staff, and Jake Cookus, and Mike Dock, director of recruiting, former player here. And so it's kind of cool to have guys that want to come back and then see the progression we've made and been a big part of it.
When I saw the mock-ups for Beaver Street, I just imagined kids kind of running around during the game. I know there's a lot of kids on your staff. What do you think this will feel and look like when it's going this fall?
Yeah, I think there'll be some unique, cool energy. Because where we're standing, we can take a left here and go down to Beaver Street and get a bite to eat. But now the thing continues, and you can get full circle all the way around. It's a 360 complete turn that you can access every part of the stadium now. And so a buzz, a movement, an energy, and really the location of this Beaver Street, the visual of the game, it's a great view.
Wow. All right, so I want you to go back in time because we're going to see all your kids and all these kids kind of playing around here. When you were growing up in Southern California, were you the only one that supported your dream to come play major college football?
No, I mean, I had some great influence, starting with the family piece, you know, parents, older brother included me a lot. You know, he's 3 years older, but he included me a lot, and anytime they were doing stuff, baseball, basketball, football, so I was always competing with a little bit older guy. Parents were all on board and just chasing the dream down of being a part of football. Because honestly, coming out of high school, a little bit, I knew I wanted to get into coaching. And at the time, I thought I was going to do some high school coaching. But then obviously got up here and had a great experience as a player, and knew at that point I wanted to be able to coach college football. And I think about the influences I had from coaches themselves. That's a little bit my motivation. Is like I had great experiences from multiple high school coaches, college coaches. Then, you know, I want to go full circle and kind of recreate that now, being in this role. So yeah, you just don't do things on your own. Had a bunch of help.
When you got here, I don't know if you necessarily were getting like an invite into the stadium. Like, here you go, here's your playbook, here's your locker. Like, you had to fight to get that as a walk-on. And I read like 178 pounds when you were a freshman. When you look back on that, what do you think going through that resilience, what do you think it shaped for you now that you're trying to pass on to, whether it's former walk-on Catan Oladapo or huge recruit Aiden Childs?
Yeah, I think both spectrum. If you're in our locker room, you're part of our team, and everyone gets more or less an opportunity. And that's what I experienced. I came in, Mike Riley's the coach, sat me down saying, hey, you'll be treated just like everybody else, but you'll be paying for it. Your opportunity will be very similar to everyone else. And he lived up to that word. And so now, for me, having to go through that experience, to bring in players, you know, giving true, genuine opportunity and treating them just like they're everyone else. So from 1 to 120 on the roster, treating buddies the same. And I think that's good for a team. This is the ultimate team game. And guys understanding that there's value from 1 to 120. And you play better together, you compete better together, you practice better together. And we tried to create that.
Do you remember the day you got your scholarship? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, so we played a game, I think it was in Seattle. And then the next day, Mike Riley calls me in and more or less says, hey, we can give you a scholarship. We're trying to figure out if we can start it now or when the next term starts. And then I think it took me a couple days even to tell my parents, because I don't know, I was back into the film room or just going. But I remember Coach Riley, kind of nonchalant, but we're giving you a scholarship and we're working out when we can get it started.
What did you say, or what did they say when you called home?
Yeah, I don't totally remember that part. So I don't want to make it more dramatic than it really was if I don't even remember.
Yeah, I say that. I remember I was a walk-on too in my first year, and this is the fun part of the story. Here we are, like right outside and right inside the stadium. You were playing in the Fiesta Bowl. That was my freshman year, and we played in the inside-down combo. And I was like, I want to know what that feels like in that stadium. So I climbed the fence, jumped into the stadium the night before your game, because our game was like I think the previous day, and I got to see like just like we have now, like Oregon State, the Beavers in the end zone. Like it was epic.
Yeah.
And then being like, okay, I can't wait to hopefully earn that. And I did a year later. You earned yours your freshman year. And I think there's something to the fact of like, you know already that you're a scholarship player versus needing the affirmation.
Yeah.
It helps
Yeah,
for a bunch.
It's huge, and the appreciation, because let's face it, it's not easy, expensive. And then the sense of more or less gratitude of following through with the word that you're going to get an opportunity to be able to compete. And I did get that, and I was fortunate, man. We had some players I was thrown into, right? And, fortunate at the time. And that is one of the cooler things now as a coach is to be able to give a scholarship to a guy for doing a lot of things right or developing and contributing. And we've been able to do it a few times these last few years.
All right, let's talk about development. My favorite stat by far is scoring differential. It's a challenging memory. I'm going to bring it up anyway. Year one, negative 235 points. You lose 10 games. Last year, positive 159 points. You win 10 games. When you hear that, I mean, that is dramatic. And you're in it every day, but to kind of zoom out, what's your reaction to where it was and where it is, let alone where it's going?
Kind of like you're saying, because you're in it every day, it's not like just one day dramatically hits you. But I think back about all the work, really the buy-in of the players, the staff, daily, just really going to work, having a belief, more or less an optimism that we can get it done. I've turned this place into a highly competitive, winning program, and we've gotten it in that direction over a long period of time. I mean, let's face it, there's 4 years of heavy lifting and buy-in and player development and recruiting and the staff continuing to grow and establishing an identity, and just over time that belief that we can get this thing flipped. And I do think it started with like winning at home. You got to be able to win at home, and we got that going, and then the confidence to pick up some wins on the road. And now obviously we're trying to do it again.
Your first year, I can remember interviewing you when you got this job, and you said, we're going to do common things in uncommon ways.
Yeah.
I mean, you were on the portal thing before it became...
Before the portal started.
Before it was mainstream. How have you continued to tap into that phrase as you've built this program into a legit championship contender?
We do think about things, because there are, some common structures to even the amount of time you can spend with them, the practice days, you got to take a day off. Everybody's got that. Everybody's recruiting and trying to find uncommon ways of doing it to gain an edge. Think about the recruiting piece. We're trying to build our roster in really every facet we can. So, the portal's a part of that. Obviously, high school recruiting. I think the junior college thing, we've got plenty of success stories here at Oregon State. And so the junior college piece, we want to develop walk-ons, and we've got a few contributors in a big way. So using every avenue we can. And I'm not saying that's totally different from other programs. They've got that going too. But we're always finding the way we practice, the way we recruit, the way we develop, to find edges and doing things a little bit uncommon.
I think it's uncommon that your staff is really stuck together.
Yeah?
You got to work at that, because when you have success, people are coming to try to get your guys.
100%.
What do you think about the way you lead allows them to say, I want to stay?
Right. You probably get the most accurate answer from them, but I do think the type of men they are, they can be the type of men, coach, father, husband they want in this place, the college town atmosphere, the access, getting home and back. I do feel like I'm not a huge micromanager, because when you hire really good people, you let them go do their work, and we've got quality men that are doing that. I think there's benefit for the players, these coaches, being around them, knowing them even better. And look, we've got some coaches that are ready to be head coaches, coordinators, elevating that way. But I think they haven't felt like they needed to go take another job just to ascend. When the right one comes, they'll do it. And I think it's definitely helped over the last 5 years of us improving, having a big-time staff that stayed around.
This job was your first head coaching job. How do you get coached? Like, how do you make sure, as the guy sitting at the top in this facility, somebody's pouring into you?
Yeah. Well, you ask enough questions, and again, I've been in that assistant seat, obviously, before doing this, and so turning the page and asking them how they're experiencing things. So from our assistants, those guys have given me some good wisdom. I definitely talked to other coaches that have been in the seat before, and I've had some great experience. Like, I think about the coaches I played for or worked for, head coaches. Those guys were huge in that, so I lean on those guys as well. Because you're asking the player to improve year in and year out. Same thing with the assistant coach. Well, what's the head coach doing? And try to, even really every year, find ways to improve my game.
What's it feel like now? Because you're going to watch your kids play their youth sports games. You're in this community. You live only a few minutes from this actual stadium.
Yeah.
After last year, and knowing how people are talking about you right now.
I do think there's some excitement about the program and where it's headed. And it's fun. I think this town's full of a bunch of good people. You talk about the kids and youth sports and schools, the public schools they're in, and getting to know teachers and principals, and feel like this is a great place to, pursue kind of my dreams of playing or coaching big time ball, and helping develop and grow people around here, competing around here in this, Pac-12 and big time ball. But at the same time, being the type of husband, father, and active in the lives of my kids, that it kind of gives you all of that.
When you look at like the state of your program, is it where you hoped it would be this year in your tenure, or is that something that people can say all the time, but you got to live it?
There's no question we've progressed. I just don't know if you can ever say you've gotten to where you want without having a championship. And we've made progression, and each year is going to be new and all that. But ultimately, you're trying to win a championship, and we haven't done that yet.
It's interesting as we're walking around the stadium, and it's getting rebuilt in a beautiful way. College football is rebuilding. Some would say in a unique way, right, to stay positive. What's your state of the game, having played it and coached it at a bunch of levels?
Yeah, it's there's still a lot of beauty to this game, 100%. I think it's the ultimate team game. It's got 11 guys and the brand new 11, a lot of participation from your team. It takes everybody, so there's still that beauty of it. I still think there's guys that can stick at a place for a year or two, get better and develop, and walk out with a degree.
Yeah.
I think some of the distraction of the game right now is devalued. There's still an education piece that's huge value for a guy to be able to play ball and leave with a college degree. I think that's still there. But times are changing, just like times have changed 20 years ago. The game's kind of changed, and we got to be able to navigate that. And hopefully in the next couple of years we can tighten some guardrails around the rules and the game itself and get to a better place.
Yeah. I love it, man. As I look out over this thing, I can't help but imagine like this student section going crazy here. This is already sold out in those brand new seats there. What do you envision this thing being come game day this fall?
Well, it does start with our student section, the energy that comes from that. And we even consider, well, do we flip sidelines now and then have the students around our visiting bench? But I just feel like we feed off our students, our players do, and so we'll keep it the same. This thing, again, counting on our students to pack the place. And then I hope there's a sense of pride for them as they stare across the progression getting made and this side being packed. And the energy, we talked about it, the Beaver Street going and so much movement, going even like a party deck on the backside down by the Valley Football Center. I think it's going to be a cool atmosphere of a bunch of pride, of people that have really sacrificed hugely and belief in doing this thing, and now it's all completed. We completed Research Stadium, and so every Saturday count on the place to be packed, energy, and hopefully we get a good product out there playing.
I was driving up here this morning, and I remember this 20 years ago when I played. I remember Virginia Tech coming onto the scene, and I remember the last decade Clemson coming onto the scene. Small towns. When you look at this thing of now, it's gonna have everything you need. Do you think like, okay, now we're back, we're ranked, we got to think like we can become a powerhouse in this game?
We're trying to become very consistent, and I do think lining up week in and week out and having the opportunity to win every game we line up with. And you're right, smaller schools, however you describe it, they can sustain some success by doing things right. And now with this stadium piece, and Obviously, we got to keep developing, working, and get good players in here. But I think it'd be pretty cool to make a nice run of a long time and win a bunch of games.
Heard that. All right, I call this my final 5. All right, question 1. First thought that comes to mind. Best advice you've ever received is what?
Best advice. I remember one thing really sticking with me is you can't do it yourself. And especially thinking about my job, but even as a player, you can't do it yourself. It takes others. It takes everyone, especially early in coaching part. It's tough to do it all. You can't do it yourself. You got to be able to, count on others and allow others to operate.
Worst advice you've ever received or you see players receiving now?
Right. Oh gosh. I almost want to flip that and more or less you can do it yourself. Like I think that mantra again, you want to have self-motivation, no question. You have doubters and believing in yourself. But again, the spin of the player in this game, even coaches, if it's all about yourself and if all your motivation is just doing it by yourself, one, I think it's way harder, almost impossible, and I don't think the value of it, even if you go on to accomplish, you want to be bringing others along with you.
When you look at the rebuild here and you reflect back on your build as a coach, what now, sitting here heading into a year with a ton of expectations, brings you the most joy as the head coach at Oregon State?
Yeah, most joy. I think senior day at home, their last senior game, and you get to more or less hug all these guys that have come out, that spend a lot of time there, and you start to think about the stories of where they've come from, maybe in year 1, year 2. Majority of them are coming out and they've got a college degree. Obviously special, the senior day, they've changed this place. I still get a bunch of joy from the idea that we can help these guys grow and accomplish and overcome adversities, and that brings a ton of joy.
When you look at this team this year, the title of the show, as you know, is the It Factory. What do you think their It Factor needs to be for you guys to take the next step?
I mean, I can get into schematics on each side. We got to be able to affect the passer. We got to throw the ball and score more points, especially in this league. I think the It Factor, the competition, all these games are going to come down to the fourth quarter, the ability to compete for 4 quarters and finish. And for us, we talk a lot about that, the ability to finish when it gets hard, overcoming and playing for 4 quarters. If we keep doing that and then get a little better rush to the passer and throwing it, scoring more, we got a chance.
You bring in 2 new quarterbacks
Yeah.
to play and practice here, DJ Uyunglele, Aiden Childs, the freshman, and of course you got a 7-1 starter returning in Ben Gilbranson. For one of them to win the job, how would you complete the sentence? At quarterback, it all comes down to
The ability for us to score more points without having and creating errors. I mean, the 3 guys you just mentioned, we've elevated the competition in the room. It'll be interesting, but ultimately we do. I think the run game ain't going to go away. We've got to take a step in the pass game to score some more points without having huge errors.
Coach, appreciate the time. For one of these before, so this is a first.
Got to be a first with you.
Heck yeah, well this is it. This final episode of the season. Coach Jonathan Smith, make sure you tune into it. Beaver fans, you get to watch this one. It's easy, pac-12.com/insider. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can hear not only Coach Smith, but what it sounds like to build this beautiful stadium here in Corvallis. Coach, thanks again for the tour.
Yeah, man.
All right. That's it, baby.